Simplify and eliminate any policies, procedures, and processes that hinder speed. I was meeting with one of my clients 2 weeks ago, and he just had a staff person who left. And he's been looking at all the processes this person put in place, and he says, I can't believe anyone could figure out anything. Everything was too complicated. And my guess is that's probably true. If you look at a number of the policies and procedures that some of your people put together, they're just complicated. And no one can act fast because they're difficult. So you might need to go back and figure out how do we simplify all of these things. Second thought, keep pushing authority and responsibility down the chain. Down the chain. So when you delegate it and they come back to you and say, what do you think? What should your answer be? What do you think? I gave you the power. You make the decision. There's a natural tendency for most of us to want to answer because we like being the answer person, right? We like doing that. We feel good about that. But when we do that, we rob them, and then they think they still have to check in with us. So your job and mine is we want to create a culture of implementation, fast speed, execution. Is we need to make sure that we push authority and responsibility down and do not wait back in later on. Next slide, set time limits on discussions. Right? Don't let the discussion go from week to week to week to week. You just say, okay, now we've got 30 minutes to discuss this. At the end of 30 minutes, we're making a decision, that's it, we're moving on. You just create a culture where people do this all the time. And lastly, review how you personally contribute to slowing down implementation. Culture is set by two things. Stories that you tell and your example. All organizations are a reflection of their leader. So if you're looking at your organization, your company, and it's not moving as fast as you'd like, always look in here. Because there's probably something that you're doing that's creating a culture. So in each one of these, we're going to give you a series of questions. Don't worry, you don't have to answer all of them right now. Okay, you'll be dead by the time we're done. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your business on its speed of implementation? Some of you might want to write a number down. 1 to 10, write a number. How's your organization at? The rating ones are easy to do. The writing ones you'll have to do later. 2, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself on your own speed of implementation? Not the organization, but you. Then these are going to do later. What is one thing you can do? Number 2 is leverage. Leverage. Almost all of us here in the room probably are familiar with Archimedes' comment, right? You give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I can move the world, right? It's quoted all kinds of places. Well, entrepreneurs know the concept, but they're usually not good at it. Why? Because they have trouble letting go. And let me prove it to you. I have 7 statements down there. As I read through these, I want you to check off which ones you've heard yourself say. Number 1, no one can do it as well as I can. Don't raise your hand, just check off. Number 2, they never get it done right. Number 3, some of you are laughing, right? I can get it done faster if I just do it myself. There we go. Almost everyone had to check off on that one. Number 4, this is my business. I'm the one who's supposed to make the decisions around here. Number 5, I don't want anyone screwing up my business. Number 6, I don't want anyone taking my business away from me or taking it in a different direction. And the last one, the only person I can really trust is me. I won't ask you how many of you checked off all 7. Okay? Intentionally and intellectually, we know that leverage is what we're supposed to do. But when it comes to executing, we have a problem with it. We have a problem letting go. And that is a very big problem. Because leadership is all about leverage. Leadership is all about leverage. Number 1, now change your belief system. This is probably one of the most difficult transitions for most leaders to make. The reason you became a leader is because you were good at doing something. And everybody rewarded you for whatever that something was. And so as long as you kept doing that thing, you kept moving up. Then you became the leader of your organization. The moment you became the leader of that organization, guess what? It's no longer about you. Isn't that terrible? It's like they take a rug right out from underneath you. It was always about you and your performance, and now it's about your people and what they do. And very few leaders or organizations ever make that transition. Just look at your schedule. How much time did you spend last week developing the talent of your people? And how much time did you spend on your stuff? If you want to build a fast growth company, you've got to leverage people. That means it's no longer about you and your performance. It's about the people that you're leading and their performance. And if you can make that transition, you'll be great at leveraging. If you can't, you'll always stink at it. You've got to change the belief system. In general, entrepreneurs stink at optimization. Now, if you're like me, the first time I heard someone say this, actually a guy named Scott Hallman said this, I thought, you got to be kidding, that's not fair. And then he made a comment, and I said, you know what, he's actually right on this. And I'll tell you why. This is what he said I agree with. He said the natural temptation for all entrepreneurs is to focus their attention on attracting more new customers. right? That's what we all talk about. How do I get more and more people in the funnel? How do I build a bigger funnel, get more people in here, more. But the reality is that we make more money, and primarily most of our profit, from existing customers, right? And so we spend all our time figuring out how to get more people in, but we do very little to try to optimize the people that we already have, who are probably more likely to buy more frequently at higher price points, right, in larger amounts than new people will. Furthermore, every new person comes with a cost of client acquisition, which means we're always starting behind than if we're getting money out of current customers. So that's why most of us aren't great at it, because we're always thinking about the next new thing. How do I get a new customer rather than how do I optimize? It's just the way we're wired. And the second thing is that most entrepreneurs hate the whole managerial deal, right? I mean, for many of us, it's kind of like the Dracula thing. Ah! You know, we hate management, data, systems, process, procedures. I mean, our personality is wired because we want to do new things, we want to be adventuresome. But yet, optimization requires us to be committed to data and measurement. So that's why most of us aren't great at it. However, optimization is critical to accelerating growth because, by definition, an optimized procedure results in a better result without additional cost. So, for example, let's say you send out a marketing piece and it has headline A, and you send out another piece with headline B. How much more does it cost you to test a headline? Nothing, right? You're already going to send out the marketing piece. But by testing one against the other, if you optimize that and you get a 3% response here, and you get a 9% response here, then it was a good thing to test, wasn't it? And that's what optimization is about. It's about how do I get more without having to put in a whole lot of extra money. And optimization is definitely worth that effort, and in fact, many times costs less. Decades of leadership. Jack Welch had 4 number 1 priorities. Now think about that. Just do simple math. That means he's writing each one for about 5 years. How many people do you know who have the guts to ride one priority for 5 years? And you wonder why Jack Welch was so phenomenally great at what he did. And one of the things is that he just focused. He said, there's no way to get this stuff done unless I focus on this for a long period of time before we come back to it. So just focus in on a few things rather than too many things. Another common problem is that education and intelligence, okay, this slide came back, education and intelligence often get in the way. The more educated or intelligent a person is, the more likely they are to prefer complexity over simplicity. Now this irks a lot of us who like education and intelligence, right? It ticks us off because we know that there are people out there who are not as smart as we are and they're making 10 times more money, and it ticks us off, right? Because people who are driven by intelligence always see everything very complex. Well, it's not there are 3 things we're really doing. There are actually 273.4 things that we actually do around here, right? And so they're always looking at complexity. Whereas people who aren't driven by that have no problem saying, hey, we do 3 things. Here's what you get, okay? And so if you happen to be one of those people who loves intellectual discourse, chances are you're probably going to have a hard time with this. You've got to figure out how do I simplify down what I do. However, to grow faster, everything has to get simpler. Everyone needs to know what matters. I gave this quote from Jackie's protege, Jeffrey Immelt from GE. And he says, every leader needs to clearly explain the top 3 things the organization is working on. If you cannot do that, then you're not leading well. So what are the top 3 things that you are working on right now? What are the top 3 priorities? Do you know them? Could you write them down quickly? And then nextly, could all of your people write down those 3? Ride something for a very long period of time. Let's say you come up with a new sales script. I think you guys were talking about sales beforehand. You come up with a new script. Listen, you can introduce it one time. I guarantee your people are not going to be doing it consistently every day. Okay? And they're not going to be doing it a month from now. They're not going to be doing it 2 months from now. They need somebody who's going to ride that thing for a long period of time to make sure that they're implementing and executing time after time after time. And then after 3 or 6 months, then you get them on to something else. But if you can't stay on something, just because you're bored doesn't mean your organization is going to be like that. And in fact, what's really interesting is that, because when you do strategic work, you interview staffs, right? And almost every staff says this about their business owner or CEO. It's like flavor of the month around here. Flavor of the month, Goes to this conference, comes back around here, we're hitting over here, goes to another conference, we're hitting over there, goes to another conference, go over here, go over here. And people are like that all the time, right? And we're bored, we want to go on to the next thing. But our people, they don't get bored that fast. They just need to know this is what we're going to do, and we're going to stick with it for more than a week. Or for most of us, like a week, 7 days. Oh, that's exhausting. Right? Your people you get bored, your people don't.